Hello and welcome to this episode of Plenty. Today I have a really fun guest for you. She's my friend Tracy Campoli. She is a fitness and wellness expert for women over 40. She has incredible fitness videos on YouTube. She's grown a huge following from her videos and her reels on Instagram, and she is really inspiring and really changing the face of what it means to be vital at any age. She also became a mom just a few months shy of her 45th birthday. And so she is really in this dance of motherhood, running an online business, reinventing what wellness is. We talk about being New England girls living in Miami. We talk about raising daughters. We talk about body confidence, loving your body, and also being able to achieve your fitness goals. And what is the dance between those two? How can they work together? We talk about money mindset, money paradigms, growing an online business, when to take advice from outside sources, when not to, getting the right support, and so many other things. So Tracy is fun, she's honest, she's spicy, and I think you're gonna love this episode. Enjoy. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're gonna dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups. Hey, Tracy. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kate.
Welcome to Plenty.
I love it.
We are feeling plentiful. Okay, so when I met you, actually, you were in kind of, you have gone through like quite a bit of expansion in the last 2.5 years since I've met you.
Sure.
As have I, but we're here to talk about you today. So yeah, from a business perspective, you have blown up in a lot of ways. You know, your Instagram following, your YouTube, your videos, helping women with their fitness and health over 40, which we're going to talk about some of your hot tips for that. But I want to know, was there anything in particular that was required for you in terms of internal work that made you available and ready for that kind of external up level?
That is a juicy question.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, for sure. I mean, listen, I think that you and I can both agree it's all internal. Everything is internal, producing those external results. I think when we first met, I was actually feeling really shaken on my foundation. Like, how do I balance like motherhood?
Because you had a 2-year-old at that time.
Yes, I had a 2-year-old. I also had a lot of support that wasn't supportive.
Oh, yeah. We can talk about that. Oh, I remember.
So, and that was on both the business and the personal side because everything is related, right? And so I think what was most required was for me to really take ownership of my life. I think, listen, I mean, having a new child, running a business, throw in a pandemic, like move to a new city, like there was a lot of change over years. And I think, even though gratefully I have a business that was already set up to support me with all of these changes, I was rocked. My foundation was rocked just internally. Like I just felt sort of like, what's going on here? And so I think it really required me to just take ownership of my life and to make some hard decisions, allow myself to be uncomfortable, let some people that played a big role in my business and in my personal life, just let them go so that I could just really, steer the ship.
Mm-hmm. What was wrapped up in those hard decisions for you? Why do you think that it felt hard? Like, because honestly, for some people, like, my husband, Mike, he's very direct.
Yeah.
He's just be like, it's not working. The end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm not like
and
that.
you're not like that. And so what was wrapped up in that for you? And what did it take for you to be ready and have the courage to have those hard conversations? And I'm going to cough.
So a few things. I think what was behind it was the fear of the unknown, the fear of how am I going to be able to survive, and safety. what's known is safe. What we are used to, even if it's not working, it's safe, right? And this is stuff that, like, of course I speak to all my students and my clients about this kind of thing, but it really was like, I just couldn't ignore it anymore. Like, this isn't working for me. And so I was really afraid to make some of these changes, because on paper it looked like I had this great support, but it really wasn't working for me. And so I had to really just be willing to not know everything, to not know exactly how things were going to work out, to try new things, and to just let myself be in the moment and sit in those uncomfortable feelings.
What was not working for you about the support? Obviously, just whatever you're willing to share, knowing that it's personal.
So I felt, with like family support, and this is a good one for people that are new moms, so lean in. I think it's really common for women, because I've talked to a lot of my mom friends, that the first person that helps you with your family is kind of like, because, it was like taking home my child. And not to say this person was a great fit at first, but I definitely outgrew the relationship. And I really felt like the role of responsibility was shifted. And it wasn't me, it wasn't me that was really the person that should have been making the decisions. Like, decisions were being made for me. That makes sense. And so I was like, this just doesn't feel good. But I was afraid to change, because I was like, there was safety, those kinds of things. So that was really hard from a family perspective, throwing a husband in there too, right? Who has his feelings and his, like, it's that can be challenging.
I do hear, in case you're listening, and this is for you too, I hear from, this wasn't the case in my family, but it's very common. So I'm going to ask you more about how you navigated it. That it's very common that the partner, so that the woman will, I'm going heteronormative right now, because this is what has been the pattern in the relationships that are with these conversations, that the woman will maybe want to change the support structure or whatever. And then there's sort of more of like a Papa Bear, like, I do not want to have a stranger in my home, sort of like safety and protection, which I love the safety and protection vibe. That hasn't been the case in my family, but I know that can be something that people navigate. And so anyway, whatever you want to share about all of how you navigated that, so that you could really get the right support for all of you.
Well, what I think is really interesting is that I knew on a subconscious level, this is messing with my business. This isn't just messing with my family, but having this sort of negative energy and me not taking the ownership, was affecting my business. Right. I knew it. Right. I knew it. I felt it. I knew it. So historically, this is something I'd like to change. I'm slow to make big, scary changes. And it's funny, because I think I'm a pretty brave person. I'm like, okay, cool. This makes me scared. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to something like this, and especially with things that I don't know, like, I run an online business. I don't even know how to make a slide.
On like a PowerPoint?
No.
Like, I love that.
Not at all. People think like, oh yeah,
stick with that.
I don't. So it's like, it's great because it keeps me in line, right? It helps with the growth. Like, I don't know how to do this, but it's also frustrating, right? Because it's like, when like, I know things should operate like X, Y, and Z, but I can't do it. So with the personal, with the family and support, definitely, my husband is super, like, he's a fantastic dad, a fantastic husband, and Papa Bear, and like, really like, let's not rock the boat. And on some level, it's like, because the boat's going to rock for him as well, or for your partner, right? And so
nobody likes change.
So I finally just was like, I cannot, you just have to draw the line in the sand. And when I think back, it's like, I think of like past relationships before I met my husband. It was like uncomfortable. And then I'm an Italian Scorpio, and I'm like, we're done. That's it. Like
one day
to the next. Yeah.
I love that.
And so I had a couple moments where I reached that point, but then I just second guessed it and just was like, oh, okay, because of X, Y, and Z. But then I finally just said no more. And like most uncomfortable things, best decision I ever made.
I love it. I love it.
Like,
on the personal level, on the professional level, I know you were navigating some things in both. Okay. And so you went through the discomfort to have those hard conversations, make those decisions.
Yeah.
Was there then a lag where you went from having like, on paper, the right support, even though it didn't necessarily feel right, to then actually finding the right support when you just didn't have support?
Not really,
Okay.
luckily. I mean, so I basically, when it came to like, family support, I immediately I was already interviewing before.
Yeah.
Thinking I was going to make this change, but then I quickly made a change. So that we luckily didn't. We found someone great. But what I've learned is everything is temporary, right? So I have someone great for now. You actually really helped me a lot with that. You were like, I want my children to, feel as much love from as many places. And I was like, I love that.
Oh, I'm so glad that was helpful. So just to clue you in on what that conversation was, now this is coming from me as a child who was raised by 2 doctors. We had nannies in my family my entire life. It was just like part of the deal. My parents were like up every third night at the hospital. Like we just they needed help.
Yeah.
And so growing up, we always had extra people around, and all of those people were at my wedding. I had all of my nannies at the wedding, and I just had this sense of like, I am loved by a lot of people, and I am safe with a lot of people. Now, it's not like we had a different nanny every year. Yeah. I mean, these were long-term. Some were with us for 8 years. I mean, we're talking a long time. However, I, as a mom who, I don't know that I work full-time, but anyway, I have a full-time business, whatever, I work. Yeah. I don't clock in. I don't know how many hours I work. Yeah. But we do have support with the kids, and that has been something that I have been able to share with some folks, to just be able to say, like, I want my kids to feel safe and loved with many people, so that they are out in the world generally feeling like I can be loved and connected to more people. Not to say that they're not discerning and that they're going to trust everyone. That's not, because I'm also teaching them how to trust their bodies. And if it feels like a no, it's a for sure a no. Yes. Like all of that. But I'm glad that was helpful to you. It is something that, every now and again when the mom guilt seeps in, I remind myself of that, of like, it's really important that I'm going to dinner tonight. Like it's important that my girls know that they are safe and loved with more than just me and their husband. My husband.
Their husband.
Their dad.
Well, it's, family. Mom guilt, I think I was not prepared for it. And I just am so passionate about, like, no, when those voices come up in my head, like really just checking it and like almost like characterizing it, like caricaturizing it. Is that a right word? In the sense of like, listen, this is not real. This is like some BS, patriarchal programming that I am not subscribing to anymore. And so when it comes up, I just have to kind of have a talking to with myself, and it feels good.
I'm glad that you brought up.
We're doing it for our mothers and grandmothers, and like we get to be the break in the chain, and that's powerful.
Do get to be the break in the chain. Okay, so here's something I love about you, Tracy. When you go to your Instagram, you have incredible fitness tips and wellness tips for women over 40, and like very practical. It's like, what do we do about tightening up the back of our arms? What do we do about like, our waistline? What do we do about, not needing to like count calories, but feel vital and healthy, right? So very practical. And these waters with you run very deep. You gave me the most incredible poetry book for my birthday. And I felt like I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Do you remember what's the name of it?
I'm blanking on it too.
We'll put it in the show notes.
It's
so beautiful. But it really helped me to actually understand another layer of you, which I had known through conversation. But I was like, oh, one of the things I love the most is like when people, your brand is very powerful and it's very niched down, and there's a lot to you. So even just now, you saying about patriarchal brainwashing and like, we're cutting ancestral ties. I want you to know, like, if you want to know about fitness and wellness over 40, learn from this woman, because it goes so much deeper than that. And honestly, most people out here on these internet streets, it doesn't go deeper.
True. That's very true.
I'm just being honest.
Thank you. No, and well, thank you. It's funny. This is something I used to struggle with. It's the whole like front facing, but I'm not just an arm workout girl. I'm so much more to me than that, which is 100% true. Yeah. And, to bring people in, we have to give them, what they want and need, and also what I want to do. I mean, listen, I've had, advisors tell me, you should just do, just your fitness channel and, that's all you do. And I'm like, soul sucking, like, not for me. Like, no. So one thing that I'm recently since my trip to Italy this past summer, I just decided I'm not listening to anyone else.
Yes.
I do not care anymore what they say to do. I do not want to follow other people's strategies. And now listen, will that, I don't know, we'll see. But and it's not to say that I know everything. I certainly don't. And when I think back of the things that have been most successful for me, they all came from me.
Okay.
It was my idea to start a YouTube channel.
Love that.
Yeah, like it was my idea. Like I started my YouTube channel in 2011. I was like, I've heard of this like weird,
girl.
you know what I mean? It's been a minute.
You and I have been around.
Yes, you know? And so
that.
when I think of the things that have really like moved the needle for me in my business, most of them were actually from my spark, my inspiration, my like, hey, that sounds like that would be kind of fun to do, and then doing it. So
Okay, love that. So you were an early adopter on YouTube,
Yes.
2011 for sure.
yes.
What else has really moved the needle in your business that was your idea?
Well, Instagram Reels. So that's where when we first met, we have seen, and I just mean like the business as a whole, have seen a lot of growth, and that reach is always something that's very important to me, because when I started my business, it was like I was a Pilates instructor. I had a studio in New York, and I worked at a gym at one point, and I knew I could only reach the people in that room, and that's where YouTube and so started for me. And so with Instagram Reels, I just did it again, following the spark of inspiration. Was like, oh, okay, like I see people doing this. Like, what if I just give myself a challenge to do like 5 Reels a week, And at first, I was doing maybe 3 or 4. But I was like at least doing more and having fun and trying to figure it out. And then when I started with consistency, I started seeing like major growth, and that's been really exciting, I just think there's something wonderful about, helping people and people that don't know you, following along. And then what's great about that is that then the journey, you can go as deep or as light as you want. I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but when I first started, I used to feel like, we give a lot in the online space. Not many careers give as much as we give, right? Without being paid for it.
Absolutely.
And
yeah, you work a lot for free.
For free, And so I used to have like a sort of like, and with Instagram, I was like, I don't care. I literally don't care. If I make your day with this arm workout and made you smile today, or made you think or do something different, or even better, think differently about being over 40, my job is done. You know what I mean? And I just feel like then it just makes me have more fun doing it.
Yes, that is so smart. So what do you want women to know or hope to open up for them about the possibilities that they could experience after 40 that maybe are different than the most of the culture?
So like intuition, as soon as you asked that, was like, it just gets better. It just keeps getting better. And I really, to my core, believe that, and we know, because we've been on video for a long time. Don't you feel like, even just from a superficial, like you're like, better?
Yes.
Like better.
Yes.
Like just, it gets better. So whoever told you that it doesn't is lying.
No, I look at videos in my early 30s and I'm like, I look better now.
Yes, 100%.
And I think it's internal that then reflects on the external.
Yes.
And why? Well, I'm going to ask you more about this, but okay, so carry on.
Yeah, I just think it's really, so I think unfortunately women have been fed this lie. We've been fed a lot of lies. And one of the big ones is like, after a certain age, you're just, it's over. You're never going to be fit. You're never going to feel sexy. You shouldn't, God forbid you wear a bikini. We saw each other at the beach the other day. I think it's ridiculous. It's absolute lies. So like for me, one of the biggest changes was spending a lot of time in Europe and seeing, for me specifically Italy, seeing these Italian women and the confidence that they carried themselves with. And this was when I was in my late 20s, and I was like, that's it. That's what I want. Anything else is noise. That is the guiding star for me. And I will accept nothing else. And I'm like, I can't wait to be like 60 and like, 70 and 80. And now I have a 4-year-old. So that, like, I get chills. That leads the passion for what I do so much greater, because I'm like, I will be that mom that she, when I'm 90, that's running around with her. We're taking Pilates together, like, without a doubt. Yeah. Like, that's everything, Life is for living.
Right.
You're never washed up. you are vibrant and alive and, this juicy, like this matters. Juicy.
So obviously we're talking about a perspective and a paradigm that you are living into, which is so beautiful. And that makes such a huge difference. And so like it has to start with a paradigm where you are choosing, like you have to allow it to just keep getting better and better. And we have our way showers, like those beautiful women in Italy and whoever else, right? And I want to know, what are some of the, so knowing that you operate in this paradigm, what are then some of the practical practices that you're doing on a daily or weekly basis to really support your vitality? Because there's the paradigm and then there's the behavior.
Yes.
So what are some of the behaviors that you really commit to? Because I will say, like, you are such a glorious, thriving example of, health and vitality and longevity that I look to and I'm inspired by. So I want to know what's happening over there behind the scenes.
All right. I mean, it's somewhat like the practical stuff is like, what do you feed your body? What are you eating? Right. And unfortunately, especially, in the States, it's not easy.
It's true.
It's really not easy. I yesterday in Whole Foods was like reading labels with my daughter.
I know.
4, and she was like, I want that yogurt. And I was like, 19 grams of sugar. I was like, this one has 9. We will take this one. And then I like asked her later. So like, reading your labels, eating what feels, I'm not going to say like a, specific way of eating, but that's,
just
I
in
think
general.
Yeah.
Being aware of what you're putting inside your body matters.
Being aware of what you're putting in your brain, when you are unhappy and miserable and thinking crappy thoughts about yourself or telling yourself, I'm too old, I'm fat, I'm, flabby, I'm the party's over. Well, guess what? Your body goes, that's correct. That is correct. So it's when you are really like in appreciation. This is something, especially since I teach fitness and weight loss, you can want to change your body. You can want to lose weight if that's your goal. You can want to, be leaner or stronger or, more fit, whatever that looks like for you. But it has to start with you loving and accepting where are you right now, like in this moment, and really just being like, I have a body, like this is my body. And we are working together to make the change. That's really key. And I think that I know when women start, mostly I work with women, when they start really understanding that, that's when it's like, oh my God, I'm doing so much less. Oh my God, it's like, it's just happening because it's like you're working with your conscious and your subconscious mind and things start really flowing together. That's huge. Drink a lot of water, take care of your skin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like do all the things. But really, I think the biggest thing is like, stop talking crap about yourself. Stop it.
Yeah, that's great. That is huge. So great. That's something we can all really incorporate, take home with us. It was interesting. So in February, I was approaching my 40th birthday in March. And in February, my jeans like started getting really tight. And I was just like, I am not buying new clothes. I don't want to spend money on it. I really like my wardrobe. I'm not buying new clothes. So I was talking to my coach, and I've worked with her on like emotional stuff and business stuff, but I had no idea that she actually is also a trained health coach. So that was funny.
Amazing.
But anyway, I was like, I have either like anytime in my life I have decided that I want to change anything about my body, I have ended up sort of basically with a slight eating disorder. So I feel like I realized in that moment, I was in a paradigm in which I was saying I can either outgrow my jeans and have to buy a whole new wardrobe, which I just don't want to do for a variety of reasons, or I can have an eating disorder. It was really interesting. And my coach was like, oh, yeah, guess what? You can actually have the health and be the size that you would like while aligning with your values. And I feel like that's what you're saying 100%. Right now. And I mean, you'd think like, I'm pretty smart. Yeah. I've been around. It was such a mind-blowing moment for me.
That's fascinating.
To realize the deep programming. Yeah. And I think that, I'm curious about this for you. We have had such a beautiful awakening in our culture around body shaming and fat phobia. And, I think there's some incredibly beautiful things about the body positivity movement. And with everything, there's shadow.
Yep.
And I noticed for myself in that moment that there was shadow, and the shadow was I was operating in an either or scenario, which anytime we're in black or white thinking, we're in a trauma response.
Yep.
So my either or scenario was either I can really go off the deep end and having an eating disorder, or I can be in a body that doesn't feel comfortable for me to be in. And it felt like there was a little bit of a shadow of like that like if I'm doing anything to change the shape of my body, that then I'm fat phobic,
right,
and not being body positive.
Yeah.
So that's not really a question, but can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, this comes up, right?
I'm
'Cause
sure
we're
it
on
does.
social media.
I'm
right?
sure people are coming at you, having feelings.
Oh yes, and I have a daughter.
Yeah, of course.
And so I am like, oh, you know what I mean? Because it's like, how do we say things so that you can help people, you know, but not feed into that story and that narrative? It is interesting. So I think what I trust is that people understand that I am everything about like love your body, love it right now, love it into changing into whatever that looks like for you. Yeah. You know, I sometimes will have like, you know, one-on-one coaching or small group, you know, experiences, and you know, that's when so I'm gonna spill some tea here, but like sometimes I'm like, I honestly don't care if you lose weight. I don't care. Would I care more like when I know like, oh yes, job done, is when you're like, I feel so confident. I feel so good in my body. Like I'm loving myself. I'm taking care of myself. I'm being an example to, you know, my family or my friends or whatever. That's the bigger win.
Yes.
You know, everyone's going to have their feelings. You know, I'm a tough cookie. I'm like, okay, have your feelings. That's fine. Usually, you know, in my case, the people that are like, come after you are like very large male trainers. And I'm like, cool. I bet we don't have the same target market. So that like, good for you, Mr. Fitness 3069, you know, like that's great. Like, you know, I don't think like, you know, Sally in, you know, I don't know, Los Angeles or whatever is like, I don't think we're like really, you know, talking to the same person here. But I think, listen, I think that it's beautiful. We also live in a very body positive city.
We do.
Which I think is awesome. Like,
I know all kinds of bodies wearing barely anything.
Nothing.
I love it so nothing.
And confidently.
Yeah.
And I think that is a great, like my friends that no shade on Los Angeles, I love LA, but like, you know, Miami's vibe is a little different. And some of my friends that come and visit are like, this is good. And I'm like, it is good. It is so good to see women of all shapes and sizes, all colors, all like living. And that's also that kind of bringing it back to that like Italian vibe. It's like you see all shapes, all sizes, all colors, like really just owning their stuff.
Owning their beauty.
Sexy.
It is very
like
sexy.
Magnetic.
Yeah.
That's what we all want.
That's what we all want. And I think it's interesting. So you and
Did
I both
answer that?
Yeah, you did. It was great.
Okay.
You and I both grew up in New England, which is like not known as being sexy.
Yes.
Let's say it. It's known for being like really well educated, you know, cold, gray, historical.
Just like my
and a lot of good depth, you know, with us New Englanders.
Yes.
So in terms of like growing up in Miami, I love what you're saying about this, just like all the different bodies and the love and whatever, because I want my girls to be in that environment. Is that an important thing for you as well with your daughter?
Totally. I mean, I want her to, you know, just love her skin and see like, you know, the difference when I was in my 20s working out was like, I need to be thin. I was a dancer, you know, it was like this thin pressure, like, you know, working off bad food. That was the motivation. Now it's like, you know, I'm like, mommy works out because I want to have energy. I want to chase after you. I want to, you know, I want to be the 95-year-old that's like picking up the crumbs off the floor. You know what I mean? Like or taking Pilates with my daughter, who at that point would be what, like 50, you know, like fantastic. Like that's where I'm going, you know? So yeah, I mean, I think Miami is and Miami has a lot of things. Like the other day, my daughter started walking through and I was like, to my husband was like, we're moving. We are moving. Like,
except what I will say. So I raised my girls until my big one was 5.5 and my little one was almost 3 in Maine. And that innate sensuality is actually in our girls.
Yes.
because they were in a small town in Maine, which is not known
Right.
for being sexy, but they were just like in themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to also witness like where that comes up for us too.
Yes.
You know, around like, I know that for me, I was not raised in a household that was like super celebratory of women's sexuality or pleasure.
Yeah.
Or I wasn't taught
Same. No.
about that. And I am curious for you growing up in New England, like, did you have models in your lineage of women of owning their beauty and healthy vitality aging? So you are a pattern breaker in this.
I am a pattern breaker for sure. I mean, we can go deep, and
Please.
I love my family.
Let's go there.
Let's just like, it's interesting. So perfect example. Like I was always the kid. Okay. I saw Fame. The original movie.
I'm gonna
Debbie
live
Allen.
forever.
Yes. And I was like, I'm going to become a dancer and move to New York City and dance on cabs. Like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do.
Cabs.
Yes. I was like, I'm going to be in dance class with Leroy and it's going to be amazing, you know? But like thinking of what age I decided that, I'm now currently doing like family tree stuff to see if I, can get dual citizenship with Italy. And like, once my family came to Massachusetts, most of them stayed. It's interesting. Like, I'm like, the world is so big, like it's I just feel like I'm wired differently,
Than your family.
Than my family. Yes. Very much so.
Your family.
I love my family, but
of course,
you
of
know.
course, it can be both.
Yeah.
When you trace your lineage back, where in Italy are your folks from?
Outside of
your
Naples.
people, not your parents, but your
outside of Naples.
outside of
So
Naples.
like
Okay,
in
southern Italy.
Southern Italy.
All right, amazing. And did you realize? Was there a point when you realized growing up that you were maybe a little bit wired different?
My mother has a famous story that at 3 years old, I looked at her and said, "It's my life."
Wow.
And she was like, I kind of knew, like, you're going to do your thing and that's it, So yeah, I mean, I think I just always have had this, like, I just wanted bigger and more. I grew up in a small town in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, beautiful area, but, I was always bored. I grew up a lot, like being bored a lot. I don't ski. I don't like winter. We had like 8 months of snow.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Thank goodness I had like dance and theater, to like keep me active, because I think I probably would have had a very different life path if I hadn't had that.
How old were you when you moved to New York to be a dancer?
Oh my gosh, the ink wasn't even dry in my diploma. I like 17 years old. I was
You were
like,
out.
bye.
Wow.
Like I was like, I'll never come back.
And that was that.
And that was that. And I lived in New York for 22 years.
Then you got this inspiration that you were going to start a YouTube channel because you
Yeah.
wanted more reach.
Yes.
Beyond what, I know that there was like also a professional dance
Yes.
career in there.
Yes.
And then you became a Pilates
Yes.
instructor. You're working in gyms. Okay.
Mhm.
But I have fast forwarded through
We're here.
a large part of
I
your
like
life.
it. Good. There's lots of fast forward.
Now we're getting into digital marketing. So you decided you were going to start this YouTube channel.
Mhm.
At what point, how long were you into starting your online business alongside
Mm-hmm.
training people in person?
Mm-hmm.
How long was that before you stopped seeing people in person and went all online?
I love this question because I always was an overlapper.
Uh-huh.
Like so many people like jump and the earth will find you. And I was like, this girl likes to have money in the bank. I
Yes.
never,
Yes.
so we'll get into the money
Yes.
conversation too. I always wanted to have, more than enough,
Yeah.
right? And so like I was waiting tables and then I got my Pilates certification. Then I was teaching Pilates and starting to take on private clients. Then I was like, oh, I want to get into this online thing. So I was like teaching private clients and having my own business, but then building the online. So everything was like building.
Great.
I had clients that I just loved. They were like family. So, I had Pilates clients that I would see them once a week for like 15 years.
Amazing.
So I think I held on to it too long just because of the relationships. We see a pattern here, right? You see how we started this conversation?
Do you have a lot of Taurus in your chart? Do you know?
No.
Okay,
I
we'll
don't
do that
think
another
so.
time.
Yeah, I know I have a lot of Scorpio. But so too long. But I would say like probably at least I could have made that jump at least 3 years before I actually did. But
Okay.
at that time I was like, well, I'm only, doing
Yeah,
like
you
2
just had
hours,
your people
3.
you loved and you kept going.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so I am going to make an assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
The assumption is
All ears.
that as you grew your online business, you began making more money than you had as a professional dancer or teaching Pilates in
Correct.
person.
Correct.
Correct. Great. And
We love correct assumptions.
during that period of time, similar, coming back to the question I asked you at the beginning, what were some of the internal changes necessary, if any, that were required to open yourself up to receive more money and be able to make more?
I love this question. I think it was, seeing what's possible. I always think it's like possibility portals. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it can be an experience, but just really seeing, oh, there's another way to do this. Oh, there's another way for me to make money. I always, like, one of my founding like principles, like that is really just, one of the most important values for me is freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Like, everything I did was like, okay, I want to just feel free. I want to be able to have freedom, make my own decisions, have my own money, like really. And so the internal shifts were seeing that it was possible, being able to put yourself out there. I mean, for a lot of people, like, I'm pretty extroverted, but I'm also a little, like, I'm a little mixture of both. And, working that muscle, as much as like our muscles, like being able to like, put yourself on a camera and speak to people, and then, be able to like ignore comments and whatever, all the opiniones, because there are lots of them. There are lots of opiniones out there in this world. So, I mean,
Oh my God. I'm curious about that because I will be honest, I literally just left a voice memo for our customer service concierge this week where I said, hi, this is not your fault. And this is not something you knew before. So like, this is new information for, I'm just like, I'm not mad.
Right.
Can you not send me the emails of disgruntled customers? Because it's not like it was happening a lot, but every now and again she thought I needed to see something, which of course, like I want the information, I want the feedback, but I was like, what I need you to do is send it to Mike, my husband, business partner, and then he can determine if I ever need to actually read the primary text.
I love that.
And otherwise, he or Takesha, our community manager, can filter it and just tell me the nugget that I actually need to know, because I'm so freaking sensitive.
Yes.
And so I set up those, and it's not to, again, like, it's not to say that I'm not available for feedback. If any customer is listening, like, I make changes when people tell me stuff, and I'm available to be corrected, and I'm also available to be called forth to do better.
Sure, sure.
And I still, this long into business, I like read those and I want to crawl under my desk. So are you like that too? A, and B, how do you navigate negativity in comments or whatever? Because YouTube, the comments on YouTube are particularly gnarly. I don't personally read them, nor do I read like Amazon reviews, things like that. Because just like the general public, I'm like, whatever. But customers, I'm always very interested. So yeah, what's your experience with the opiniones?
So yes, I am like you. Like wired like that. I think that for myself with time, it's like, okay, listen, you made a decision to put yourself out there.
Yes.
In this public space, which I think literally at this point, pretty much everyone does, whether you have an online business or not.
That's true.
Because that's kind of the world that we live in now. But I also, have placed, things in place as far as like, if there's something that I need to know, please tell me. But if I don't, like, keep me in my happy little bubble so I can focus on like the thousands of people that are so happy,
yes,
as
100%.
opposed to, and it's really easy to really focus on like that one person that said something like,
our brains are
negative.
wired for that.
100%. So when it comes to comments, this is great. So I asked someone who, they have a huge YouTube channel and a huge business, and it's a husband and a wife. And I had a conversation with the husband, and he was like, well, that's why these platforms let us delete comments. Oh. And he was like, we, take feedback, but you can delete.
Right. If somebody's saying something nasty.
Something that's like ridiculous. It's like one thing if it's like conversation sparking
I know,
like
but
a different
sometimes
opinion.
they're saying like, show me your boobs.
Oh, yeah. Delete. Delete. I'm actually offended that people don't ask me that. No, just kidding. No, so but you can also just, and I, listen, I'm saying this publicly, like there's, and he said that, he was like, there's a reason why we have those tools. And I was like, oh, you know what, you're right. Like, because the other thing is I don't want to give, especially let's say it's like gnarly trainer,
3905.
Exactly. I'm like, this is my platform.
Yes.
I'm not going to go on your platform and be like, hey, dude, you should be like lifting. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just not going to do it. So I just think you can choose to ignore, but I also don't want to spark a conversation that's ridiculous. Sometimes I'll keep things, for sure. And I think that it can be really thought-provoking conversation when it's positive, but and of course customers, it's a different conversation, it's very different. I'm talking about like the overarching,
the internet at large.
The internets, humans on the internet, it can be a lot.
But I think you're right about constructive. Like I am very available for a constructive conversation when someone is pointing out something that I missed or giving us a helpful suggestion or, any conversation about like, if I have something that I just didn't know, like very available to be told, so I could do better,
to make your things better, right? Your products, right? Like we do that all the time. It's like, oh, someone's like, oh, you didn't put X, Y, and Z, and it's like, oh, okay, let's add that
next time.
So that's great. That's super helpful. But when it's like someone saying like, show me your boobs, or like, you're an idiot.
I mean, it's not funny. Like, please don't leave that comment. But I mean, there are when people leave like really hurtful things that are just not. There's constructive at all, and there's not an opportunity to
grow or to help other
and to
people.
expand together. Then
like literally like do that. Like there's nothing wrong with doing that. Just being like delete.
Yeah, no,
because you know what? Then it doesn't enter in my sphere of energy.
Yeah, you don't get to come like on my front yard and then throw up.
Yeah, no.
Like
I was going to say poop. You can't poop on my front yard.
No, thank you. Okay. So that's so funny. As we kind of like bring it on home here, I really like to ask this final question, and that is, if you were to be able to go back and tell maybe your 17-year-old self with your diploma just drying there, like headed off to New York from the Berkshires, or, somewhere in those early 20s age, something about money, like a piece of money wisdom that you could deliver to Tracy at that time, what would that be?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say, open yourself up to seeing more possibility and being open to conversations with others. Like, see if someone has a more abundant mindset, hang out with that person. See what they're thinking. So my husband works in finance, and he had an opportunity come up, and it was, I don't want to give anything like too personal, but like we're talking billions of dollars, right? Billions with a B. And I was like, oh my God, I really hope that because I was like, I don't care about the actual income. I care about how does this person think? That's all I want to know is like, what's the difference between a person that has billions of dollars, not even to say that I even want billions of dollars, but how do they think differently? Because that's fascinating to me. So I think just if I could tell my younger self, it's like, just be open to conversations and being open to receive and notice how people think, because it's just energy. It's all just energy.
Well, and to know that there are different paradigms, different narratives, different realities where, like, I think that a lot of the limitation with money comes from, well, this just is the way it is.
Yes.
And when we can remain open to like, wow, that person over there just really operates in a very different way than I do. Or, wow, how does that person, they have a different scenario.
Yeah.
And they may not even have a different money reality, but the way they relate to it might be really different and educational.
Yeah.
So I love that so much.
And just being able to, as a mom, like raise my child differently and navigating that. Like, how do you,
So
I don't know.
Okay, that was supposed to be the last question, but I have more. What do you want to pass along to your daughter in terms of her understanding of how money works, her understanding of how to be a woman in the world with money? Knowing she's little, you got time.
She's 4.
Yeah, she's 4. But still, like, these things that are, our little ones, they are aware
Oh, yes.
of money already. And yeah, what do you want her to know?
I want her to know that she lives in an abundant world. I want her to know that money and value, your personal value and how much money you have, it means nothing. Those are completely different things.
Yes.
But I feel really grateful that I have created a life that the possibility and how I feel around money. I grew up my parents are wonderful people, but it was like a lot of scarcity mindset. My father was first generation American, grew up very, very poor. So I really did work to rewire my brain into abundance is everywhere. And so my daughter's getting the benefit of this, and she has a mom that thinks this way. And, I also want her to work and have a work ethic. That's one thing interesting, that will be interesting to see. How do I navigate that with her in a city like Miami, where a lot of young women have a different life path, which is, I'm just going to say it, like sugar baby life. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh no, make your own money, but I also, that's important. So I show her, I work, I make my, I'm creating wealth, for our family. And I want her to see that, so when she's like, no, mommy, I want to don't go to work, and I don't like you. It's like, how many hours I don't know, but yeah, I think it's important for her to see that, I'm contributing to the family and the world, and women
Yes.
have wealth and we can do great things.
Yes. Not to mention the fact that your work uplifts women.
Yes.
I mean, it is helping women fall in love with themselves.
Yes.
It is helping them feel more energized,
Yes.
feel better in their bodies, live longer.
And what's possible after that?
So much
Everything,
more. So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for being such a good friend.
Thank you.
Where can people find you if they want to follow along and learn about not only how to tone their triceps, but also explore the depths of Tracy, because it goes so much deeper than that.
Thank you. So sweet. Tracy Campoli on all social media. So YouTube, Instagram, those are probably the two that I'm most active on. And, truly now Instagram. So send me a DM, say that you found me on Plenty, and let's be friends.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Kate. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening in to this episode of Plenty with my friend Tracy. It was very nourishing. It was very fun. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Definitely go give Tracy a follow. Her workouts are incredible. She also has great skincare tips, beauty tips, and fashion advice, and a lot more where that came from. If you liked this episode, please go ahead and screenshot it, tag us, let your friends know, let your social know about Plenty. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you're subscribing. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review. That gets this information out to more people so we can all experience more Plenty together. Thank you for being here, and we will see you on the next episode of Plenty. Woohoo! You made it to the end of an episode of Plenty. Don't you feel expanded already? So if you liked this episode, go ahead and leave us a review. Subscribe to the podcast. Text a friend and let them know they need to listen in. That helps us spread the word so more people can experience Plenty together. And if you want to ease your path to creating wealth, I created a money breakthrough guide for you where I interviewed over 20 of my high-earning women friends, and I asked them what their biggest money breakthrough guide was, and the responses were so mind-blowing and helpful, I knew I needed to pass them along to you. This is the kind of thing that is often only shared behind closed doors, but now you can access it totally for free. So head over to katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs and get the guide. Again, that's katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs. And I'll see you next time for Plenty.